So if there's 3 or 4 areas in a plan and you keep the team confined to reiterating and pivoting within those 3 or 4 areas of the right way to success, that'll enable you enough room to be able to find the areas of focus.
Today, I speak with Anthony Bratti of Centerfield about continuing business and operating momentum throughout the year and capturing that excitement and bump you get after New Year's into February, March, April, and so on. Anthony has joined us before about scaling sales organizations, and he always has a fresh take on growth. As always, we have a weekly chat with Marty Beckerman, which is our first segment. Marty and I discuss the stories he's covering for business.com, including new sensory-friendly hours at Walmart and how a judge issued a unique sentence for an abusive Chipotle consumer. Thanks for listening. I'm with Marty Beckerman in our weekly chat about what he and his team are covering in this week's B newsletter. Marty, good to see you.
Hey, John. Good to be back.
You got some really good stories cooking this time of year. One of them is really interesting to me. I remember when COVID started, stores started putting together hours for seniors to go. I think it was like the first hour of the day, seniors and seniors only could shop. There'd be a little less folks in the store, and that was good for a variety of reasons. Walmart is doing something new. Could you tell the listeners about it?
Sure. Walmart began experimenting with what they call sensory-friendly hours, where they turn off all the loudspeakers, the TV monitors throughout the store, and they turned the lights down low a bit. This is to help people who are neurodivergent or possibly have PTSD, to just create a calmer environment. They tried it out. They had a really resoundingly positive experience from those communities, and they decided to roll it out at every store in America, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Saturdays, and they've been getting a lot of positive feedback, so we wanted to highlight that.
That's cool. I do know that the big box stores can be super bright sometimes, and I think it's a really good idea. So I am a believer in some cases that the punishment should fit the crime. Before we get into the next story, which relates to this, I guess, I was at the local co-op in Seattle last week, and I'm walking to the hot bar. I'm going to get like some breakfast. And there's a person maybe 10 feet away from me, and she's absolutely screaming at the folks behind the deli saying that the food at the hot bar sucks and there should be better food. And the folks really, really took it well, the employees at the co-op, but it was a crazy scene. You talk about a maybe even crazier scene that occurred at a Chipotle. Talk about what happened and then the end result.
Sure. This was in Ohio late last year. A woman at Chipotle threw her burrito bowl in the manager's face. She had asked for it to be remade. She didn't like it the first time, asked for it to be remade, didn't like it the second time, threw it in the manager's face while it was still hot. And so she was arrested for assault, pleaded out to a very unique plea deal that the judge gave her, which was to say he would reduce her sentence if she got a job in fast food for 20 hours a week. So she would then have to be behind the counter dealing with disgruntled customers herself. And the way the judge put it was that he wanted to teach her a little bit of empathy. So the punishment fit the crime. They actually asked the Chipotle manager how she felt about it. And she said it. She told the New York Times it wouldn't sour her view of the fast food industry. She said, "I still love working in fast food and I love the customers." So one bad one.
I really like that. I think it's a great idea for everyone to work in service for empathy. And I like the quote from the judge, which you can read in the article in the newsletter. Last thing to cover for today, Marty, I'll tee it up with a question. Who are better employees, Republicans or Democrats? Don't answer that. That was a trick question. We obviously know that we should not talk about politics in the workforce, or it's frowned upon. You talk about it in this week's organizational psychologist's couch, a recurring bit or piece in the newsletter.
Right. This week's was written by Dr. Ben Baran, and he's talking about how in an election year, especially when tensions are higher than normal, and they've been high pretty constantly lately, that even knowing what party your coworkers belong to, even if you haven't had a debate with them or an argument with them, just knowing that they might belong to the other party can cause teams to stop talking to each other in the office and avoid each other. And it's going to destroy trust and destroy the ability to work together. So he recommends some things just to keep in mind, that we need to acknowledge how everyone belongs in a team, respect each other, and trust that we're all working toward the same goal when we're at the office. And then maybe we save our opinions for Twitter or X or our private time.
Okay, so that was the final analysis. Just say what you want on Twitter. No, I'm joking. All right. Thanks, Marty. As always, sign up for the newsletter at business.com. It's free.
Thanks, John.
I'm talking with Anthony Bratti today. He's a recurring guest on the pod. And our subject is about getting 2024 off right, having your best year yet as a company for results and personally as part of your career. And notice that we're not launching this on January 1st, because this is not about week one of the year. We're launching it at the beginning of February. It's about taking the energy from the beginning of the year, or the culmination of all your planning, and maintaining it throughout the year and staying on track or getting back on track as you deviate from your plan throughout the year. Hi, Anthony. How you doing?
Good, John. How are you doing?
Good.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. Let's work backwards, though, a little bit into the planning process. Maybe we don't have to all talk only about work. Did you do any New Year's resolutions? I'd love to know. In our last meeting, you talked about the virtues of cold plunging.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're still doing that. And then what's your process like in general for personal and work resolutions if you do them?
Great question. Well, I do have to say, the temperatures around here have been about 19 degrees outside. And that cold plunge, if you remember, I keep it at like 34, 35 degrees. So it's actually been colder outside to get into that warm cold plunge. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So it does a little bit of reverse action now in the winter.
Yeah. And I just came off a week of travel. I think everybody's back into, travel mode. The holidays are off. So definitely appreciate it. So from a personal standpoint, I think you need to have one big epic race or event a year. I haven't quite found that one for this year, but I do a good job of setting up what my races and planning are. So one that I signed up for, which comes first up in April, is it's called a SEAL Fit 20X Crucible. So it's a 12-hour Navy SEAL training kind of race or event, I would say. And then another really notable one will be I'm looking forward to what's called a Whiskey 50, but it's a 50-mile bike ride, off-road bike ride in Phoenix. So I don't necessarily have a set of resolutions, but I keep to a really good pace of family balance, physical activity, and as well as work goals. So I map those out in the beginning of the year. I make sure that I have plans for the family to travel. And once those are on the calendar, then everything else starts to fill in the spots with good activities.
I love it. Yeah, for me, I try to shut down as much as I can between Christmas and New Year's. I find it's a really good time to recharge, and always try to do something new. This year I'm doing dry January, which I've done before. I love it. And one of the new things is I'm doing boxing. I'm not like a really like muscular guy, but I've been doing boxing fitness. And if anybody's thinking about like what's something I can do new to get me excited about fitness, hitting a bag as hard as you can is really is great. And I'm looking forward to it every day. Like I can't wait to go.
Are you doing it before office or after office? Is it start your day? How are you doing it?
Well, I like it so much. I'm willing to do it anytime. They have classes as early as 6. They have a lunchtime class. And so like whatever would work within my schedule is what I would do. And I think if you're sort of dreading like training for a 50K bike ride or whatever, you may do it, but it's not the type of thing that's going to last.
Right.
Right. You've got to find things that bring you joy and bring you energy. So glad to hear what you're doing, and I think we've got similar attitudes on that. Maybe as a segue from personal to work and sort of like wrapping your head around new mindsets. We were on the phone a couple weeks ago, maybe it was before the holidays, I can't remember. And you were wearing this sweatshirt, and I'm going to kind of quote it. And the sweatshirt said, "Hating me will not help you win."
Right.
Tell me about that. Why'd you wear it? How'd you get it? What does it mean to you?
Great topic. I'm surprised. Not surprised, but I'm glad you remembered it. So there's an influencer. His name is Cameron Haynes, and definitely into the athletic outdoor space. And for Christmas, I bought the kids a sweatshirt that actually said, "No one cares, work harder." So I have 4 kids. I bought all of the kids these sweatshirts because and they go from 23 to 13, the kids, right? So I've got one that just started working, and the joys of getting up and leaving the house, at 7 and coming back to the office and complaining about having to go work on a Friday in the office. It's interesting, right? And then I got one that's graduating, and so the theme stuck with, at the end of the day, I care, but most of the world really doesn't care. Just work harder. And so when they wore those sweatshirts around, they got believe it or not, they got a lot of compliments and joy out of that. So they returned the favor and gave me back the sweatshirt. That they gave me back that sweatshirt. And at the end of the day, everybody can be successful, right? And the harder that you work with folks, sometimes they don't want to take that call. Sometimes they don't want to do that review. And so I think if they don't see the positive reinforcement that you're giving to them, they actually dread having those review conversations. And so that sweatshirt became a great talking point for a couple of weeks of, hating me is not gonna help you win, but if we're working together, it makes everybody more successful.
It's also a little bit about the focus on the result or the outcome. If you have to have a difficult conversation with someone, or you're on the receiving end of a difficult conversation, and you can put it in a box and say, they're not critiquing me, the person. It's how
Right.
can I improve my work product? How can things be more effective because we have a shared goal? I think it kind of just takes the edge off. Everybody can relax and just talk about what needs to be done.
It's one of the favorite sweatshirts in the in the shuffle right now.
Yeah, so. you wear it proudly. So, all right. So I want to talk about maintaining the energy, having a good year the entire year, maybe in month 2. But we have to talk about what often happens in January. I know that you work with sales. A big part of your career's been in sales and business development, and oftentimes the first week of January is a sales kickoff. I remember one of the ones I remember is in New York City during a polar vortex, and everybody's just absolutely freezing their butts off the first few days of the year. But I guess the question is do they work? What are they good for? What are they not good for? Do you do them? What's your experience with them? What's typically done at the beginning of January?
So if you think about it, December is all about planning. What is the year going to look like? January is all about getting the results out, or the objectives out for the groups and rolling out quota. And then you have these wonderful things called sales kickoffs that the marketing team has spent fourth quarter working around, and now we're in execution mode. And the sales kickoffs are great for that bump, right? There's always that bump in activity right after the sales kickoff. And that ends typically at the end of February. And I think the problem that the leaders have is all this money's been spent and it doesn't get sticky. It doesn't maintain that kind of that mental resilience to be able to move through the plan and that stickiness of the fortitude of the teams to be able to pivot when bad things happen and they're not hitting the plan as aggressively as they want. Or they get a little comfortable because they have 1 month bump and a trend doesn't happen with one line or two periods of growth. So I think the challenge now is everybody's as this podcast is going on. I think the sales kickoffs are happening or have happened, right? And then they're going to come back. And now, how do you maintain that momentum coming back from that sales kickoff to really go and achieve plan, and not waiting until May or June to realize that you have a problem with third and fourth quarter? Because like most organizations, the magic seems to happen in Q3 and Q4. There's a lot of back end loaded plans there across the teams, and it's really up to the leaders in the organization to make sure that everybody has the right rules in place to be able to execute on it. So to answer your question, I think, sales kickoffs are great. They're fun at the moment. But making sure that they have the ability to execute post those sales kickoffs is key.
Let's talk about two of the scenarios that you brought up. Let's talk about the good and keeping the good scenario. So you mentioned let's imagine there's a group that works for you, or there's a person that works for you that has had a great January and February. Maybe they're almost even meeting their yearly quota. And what's the process by which we keep this group to outpace and absolutely crush their goals and not sit on their laurels? It's not like the hedge fund that on December 1st they've gotten to 20% growth and they just shut down. What do you do in that case? What's your technique?
So I think there's a combination of things, right? So one, making sure that they have a prescriptive set of target accounts that they need to go after. So to your point, quota is probably set lower in January, right? Everybody feels good coming out of the year. It's set lower probably in February. There isn't a big hockey stick that happens to put everybody in a deficit as that's there. But you have accounts that you have to go after, right? So if you're ahead of plan and you're making plan on one or two accounts or one or two verticals or one or two products, making sure that you have to drive success across each of them enables the teams to continue to move forward through them, right? So a very prescriptive set of accounts or verticals to go after is key number one, especially for a sales organization and the partner in crime with it on the marketing side. I think the next key piece is, as you have the right folks on the team, many of the folks in the commercial organization are financially motivated. So putting the right commission plan in place that is both revenue or EBITDA focused, but at the same time, just because you hit your number in February and you hit your annual number in February doesn't mean you get that same commission plan, or you don't get the upside by hitting that number also every single month of the year. So I've found that commission plans with quarterly bonuses or some sort of monthly and quarterly metric enables you to keep building on that success. So if that team's at 25% overachievement, how can you build a plan for them to get to 100% overachievement through the course of the year?
Yeah, for me, my advice and my experience is a lot less on the sales side, more on marketing, product analytics, et cetera, is when we found something that works better than expected, whether it's an SEO, something with SEO, something with marketing, something with whatever, it's time to pour gas on that thing, because those are the things that can like 2x, 3x, 5x, 10x your business, where you had a good plan, but actually you under imagined how powerful it would be, or was serendipitous in some way. And that's the way that you really, really crush your business. Let's talk about the other side of things. So somebody's having a tough January or February, and how do you have the mental resilience to get through it? Because it's possible that there are the wrong marketing messages. It's possible that there aren't the right products. It's also possible that the sales individual, the sales group just isn't working for some reason, or has had a little bit of bad luck. What do you do to keep those folks on track?
I think that's the key to it, right? Of not just having complete pivots out of of things that are perceived not to be working. You can't throw the entire team out if plan's not working. You can't throw the entire marketing organization or the marketing plan out if it's not working. So what trials can you do to look at things with a different lens? Unfortunately, underperforming organizations are coming in just to build plans to make plan, right? And they don't always have that mindset of how are we far achieving or far exceeding the plan. So what I found is putting a set of trials in place that have the ability to have breakout growth and breakout offers helps overcome those issues versus, I think you used a good word, sitting on your laurels and saying, hey, we're going to struggle to make plan this year. So I'll give you a perfect example. In one of the recent organizations, we added there was a decision to take a couple of resources away. And by taking those resources away, we automatically saw 60 days later a drop in results. Not expensive resources, but it was something that needed to happen, at that time in the business. So we tried adding some of those resources back to see what would happen. Within a couple of weeks, we saw a 60 and a 97% increase in those results over a 30 and 60 day period. So we started off, they started off the year again short on the results. We added back some resources. Just this month, we're seeing 100% increase in that area of focus by putting the resources back. So if they're able to see that again for another month, can you 5 or 6x the resources that you need in that area to be able to drive the results? Now that's a digital business. It's a lot easier to impact a digital business real time versus some enterprise sales organization. But all growth is good growth if it's profitable as you go down the path. So just an example of trying new things and making sure that the teams are aligned and have their partners in place to go and do that.
One of the things that I do is I reread the plans. So we did a planning exercise in Q4, put a lot of work on it. I think it's a really good plan. And then my first day back, I blocked off a half an hour of my schedule with a note in the calendar said, read the plan. And I just reread everything that not just we put together, but everybody in the organization put together. And I've been trying to do it once a week because one of the things that I've noticed when folks get off the right track for whatever reason, it's because they're not actually on plan. They're not doing they're pivoting organically away from the plan. And then the other thing that I've noticed is a focus on the right KPIs. I think sometimes in a planning process, it could say, we're going to track this, we're going to track that, we're going to test and learn. But there's 90% diligence to that, not 100% diligence on that. And straying away from that laser focus on the KPIs that you thought would determine success, I think leads you away from the right course corrections if plans are behind.
When plans are built, right, as we've done in the past, there's 3 or 4 paths to that plan. There's not 50 and there's not one, right? I think, and both of them are a problem, right? 50, there's no area really to concentrate or focus. And then you just get operational or executional issues, right? So if there's 3 or 4 areas in a plan and you keep the team confined to reiterating and pivoting within those 3 or 4 areas of the right way to success, then that'll enable you enough room to be able to find the areas of focus. So, I've come across a lot of folks that always want to move up market. They always they're selling, they have a certain average order value. They want a higher average order value. And it's typically the CFO that always targets that out of, hey, we shouldn't focus on smaller accounts, right? And when they do that, they say, okay, marketing is going to be our brute strength to be able to position up there. So they take the same product and all they do is have marketing help them position to the larger customers. 9 out of 10 times that doesn't work. It needs more of a collective effort, right? So with marketing starting to positioning higher, as well as product having a new solution, but a new version of the existing solution, but a new packaging of the solution, and the sales team having better verbiage to be able to go speak to a more enterprise or higher level customer. That's more of a package, right? To be able to go sell up market. And I think most unsuccessful plans are developed with just one of those intentions in place. So I like the idea. I have my plan printed out. I don't know that I actually have calendar time to go read it every once a week, but I print out my plan with my major work streams, and so I refer to that. And the one thing I do have printed out every week is my revenue associated with plan on a weekly basis. And so with a hyper focus on each one of the levers that we've signed up for. And so that level of focus. So for instance, another organization I've spent some time with, we have a slide. I call it, it's a monthly slide. It happens the 16th to 17th of every month. And one of the initiatives this year is to prevent that slide. And so by publishing what that slide is on a daily basis, now they're able to exactly touch the slide and touch what contributes to the slide and go find backup plans to be able to go address it. So hopefully that plan becomes successful this year. But net, I think taking the plan, being very prescriptive about what the plan is, and having work streams with various paths to the plan is critical for any successful execution this year. Yeah, technology makes it easier. It could be written on a piece of paper. I've got it on paper, but I think technology, folks leveraging technology as a project management tool helps everybody communicate. So I think technology's helped everybody start to work those better.
I think the point I'm taking from this is we both have this routine that tells us what's important, and just like, however our week goes, we're always, whether you're looking at your revenue number or I'm looking at our strategy, just as a way of centering ourselves, almost like a mantra for business planning. You've been on the road, Anthony, just in Vegas this week, talking to marketers. And I'm curious what you think, with the organizations that you speak to, the marketing organizations that you're most impressed with, and sort of what their philosophy for the year, maybe their outlook for the year. Do they think that consumer demand is going to be higher, business demand is going to be higher, or anyway, what's impressing you the most coming into the year?
Yeah, just because it's top of mind, can I take your question? I'm going to take your question the other way for a second. What amazed me is how many junior folks in the organization didn't have the right metrics that their executives had for the conversations. Amazing. Like, John, I couldn't tell you the amount of conversations that there were vanity metrics being used versus real metrics on results. So one thing I saw was, maybe it's just the holidays, maybe it's the timing, maybe it's, I don't know. The good news is it doesn't happen in our organizations, but an executive would have a target number and objective in place, and the working team had a significantly disconnected number. So I was really surprised by that. And it didn't happen once, it happened multiple times. There's just, there was a lack of connection between the executive strategy and clear objectives with what the working team's working on. So I found that to be interesting. Now, it's the third week in January, and maybe you could attribute it to some of the groups just being off, but I thought that was an interesting piece.
I'll pile on to that before we get to some organizations that are impressing us. And the reason is, I remember earlier in my career, I'd be in a meeting where we'd be talking about a feature, or we'd be talking about a big deal, or we'd be talking about whatever. And the CEO or my manager would just have this totally different way of looking at it. And one of the techniques I used was to find a way to ask that leader in a one-on-one, why are you thinking about it this way? Like, explain to me why. Here's why I'm thinking about it this way. And try to get a connection around executives who are experienced, who have seen more than I have, and how they've seen the movie before. They see how to grow the business, and what can I learn from that? So would definitely recommend that from anyone who's seeing something, hearing something from their boss, the CEO, that just makes them go cross-eyed or whatever. On the other hand, were there organizations or whether a discussion or an insight about the market that impressed you when you were on the road this week or been talking to customers?
Yeah, I think there was a constant theme. The constant theme was incrementality. Like, it's not just improving what's happening out there. I think there's a lot of conversations going on about how you can, how things could be improved. How can you reduce 5%, reduce expense 5% or grow revenue 5%? But what are those exponential incremental results? And the organizations that were having those conversations, that was unique and refreshing. And back to our planning stages, it felt like other people took the same script that we were using to build multiple paths to get to their plan. And they're looking for incrementality that their existing teams can't do to be able to work to get to the plan. So I found that to be super refreshing. I also thought that there were no kind of sacred cows or waste things that used to be done. And then, there is and I think this has been going on for the last couple of years, but a really focus on the partnership. I think the days of vendor beating are long over, and the organizations that are positioned for growth are not looking just to reduce their, cost per unit or reduce their cost per unit or come out with unobjective results focused on expense. It's more of, what are the best capabilities that the organization has? You as a partner or supplier, what can you do to support them? And how do you build a really good plan? So I was really impressed by that theme continuing in the conferences again this year.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that part too. I think the best organizations right now aren't just saying, how is this incremental? They're also asking, why is this incremental? And not from, you're my vendor, I'm interrogating you. It's, I want to truly understand. I want to truly learn what the math, what the science, or what the consumer journey is. Because if I know why it's incremental, I can invest more. And I think it's a really good statement you're making about beating up vendors. Like, that's not the focus that great organizations have. It's all about partnership.
Not to say that there's some folks in there that used to that just like to do it, and it's something that they're used to do. But I think that momentum has kind of left them, and now they leave more wanting to build a great partnership and great teaming. It's always that little fun to push a little harder, but that's not the lead tactic anymore.
Well, there always used to be you either do the carrot or the stick. And there could be something else. I'm sure someone has already imagined what the great analogy is, but there's something that's like, we're in this together. It's not a carrot or a stick. It's some kind of partnership. Let's end here. We're wishing everybody a great 2024 for sure. I want to know if you have any, personal recommendations on things that folks can read for inspiration. You're always inspiring me with the new things that you're reading and doing. So let's leave a little nugget for the listeners.
So I would say from a go-to-market standpoint, I've recently gone through the 100 great leads and 100 great offers from Alex Hormozi. And so if somebody hasn't read that book, it's easy, kind of pick up, put back down, pick up, put back down. It definitely helps you think through some of the new ways to position offers and products. So I would put that on the list. And John, that I'm always looking to push the limits on, that mental resilience and toughness. So there's a lot of great races out there that if one's going to be in your area, it's a 25K up Mount St. Helen.
Oh, jeez.
So I think that's in August, actually.
My focus besides the boxing is getting to sectionals for my men's tennis team. So I'm real focused on that.
So you can't brute strength that. You have to have a skill there. So
right.
I'm going to pass on that one, but
that's right. Maybe we'll have to do a bet or something like that in H2 to flip it around. I'll have to do a big race. You'll have to serve, get an awesome tennis serve. All right. Anthony, John, thanks so much for talking to me today.
Thank you.
Did you know that more than 20 million professionals and business owners visit business.com and Business News Daily? Why? It's the best place for resources, advice, and information about how to grow your business. And if your goal is to reach our audience, you should become one of our lead partners, sponsor a section of the site, or sponsor even this podcast. Reach us at business.com/connect. That's business.com/connect.